Welcome to Gran Torino Planet. My name is Richard Brittany. Ever since I had acquired my first 1973 yellow Gran Torino Sport as a freshman back in high school in 1978, I've had a love for all the 70 Torinos and all the muscle cars from my youth. The 73 Torino was one of the last muscle cars ever built. So join me for Torino restorations, repairs, mishaps, and more. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button. See you all on the road. Hey guys, how are you? Welcome to Gran Torino Planet. I'm Richard Brittany. I'm here to show you today what I went through to convert my 73 Gran Torino C6 to a factory original Rug BG2 4-speed. So stay tuned. I'll give you all the information I can. If you have any questions, be free to reach out and ask me. This is what these communities are for, helping each other. This is a very hard to find topic on these cars, is how to do this conversion. And I'll go through all the pitfalls and the tricks. Stay tuned. Okay guys, the first thing we want to talk about is getting the correct set of brake and clutch pedals. You can use a set from another 73 Gran Torino, but almost impossible to find. But also you can use Ranchero. Clutch and brake pedals will work just fine, and they are available out there if you dig. The first issue you're going to run into is making sure that the pedals are the correct pedals. If they're for a set of manual brakes, the pin will be further away from the pivot point. If they are power brakes, the pin will be closer to the pivot point, as shown in the photos above. Okay, the next thing you're going to need, guys, is the transmission hump. You can use one out of any Torino virtually, or a Mustang, I've heard, and the Ranchero. If you have an automatic on the floor transmission, you don't need to worry about it. Your existing hump will work fine for this conversion, so don't worry about that part of it. Okay, once you got those two items, now you're going to need to find yourself a transmission. The stock transmission that came in that year was the top loader RUG BG2, but they're very, very difficult to find. You can use some other transmissions, like out of the Fairlane, out of the Mustang. Those transmissions will work also, so look around for those. Also, the original transmission was a 31 spline, and it had a long tail on it, and it's a wide ratio transmission. Buy the parts from Williams Transmission. He's on Google. Check him out. He's a great guy to buy from. Okay. So the next piece we're looking for is going to be the 4-speed shifter bracket to the transmission mount. This is the correct bracket that you'll be needing for that. If you need one, I have one left I can sell you, as long as you're the first come, first serve, and get a hold of me on that one. Okay, now it's time for the shifter. This is the correct shifter. You note it has the tab on the rear of it for the reverse light. This is the shifter from Hurst. The original was called a Ford Hurst shifter, and this is a period correct shifter for the car. If you note on the picture, you're going to see where it's got the slotted bars for adjusting the linkage. So this would be the correct shifter with the reverse button, as you see in the photo above, for that model year. So if you're looking for this one, that's the one you're looking for the 73. Now, if you go to Pony Mustangs online, you can purchase the conversion reverse light switch, which will plug into the existing wiring harness for the reverse lights on the floor mount automatic transmission from the C6. And this little setup here will plug into the back of the shifter and to the wiring harness under the console. Okay, so the next item on your agenda here would be to get yourself a good original bell housing. For the 351 Cleveland, if that's what you're running. This is what I'm assuming you're going to switch over to. It might be the Windsor. I'm not sure what you'll do there, but this whole conversion was done on a 351 Cleveland car, in case I didn't mention that. And this is the correct bell housing for the 351 Cleveland. Then you're also going to need to find yourself the dust boot for the clutch fork. This is the correct clutch boot for that. And you can find it on eBay if you're looking for the correct boot to fit that bell housing. Okay, when you're looking for the correct clutch fork, this would be the correct clutch fork for the transmission and the boot. So you can find these on eBay, they're pretty easy to find nowadays. You can get one of these for 30 bucks or so. Now, as far as the spacer plate goes, you'll need to locate a spacer plate to go behind the bell housing, between the bell housing and the block. That's to help spacing for the starter. And you can find these on eBay also, or just search the web. They're pretty available. Okay, the next piece you're going to need here is a starter shim. It is a manual starter shim to automatic starter shim. The manual starter nose is shorter than an automatic starter nose. It's longer. So this shim will allow that starter to set back a little further off the flywheel. And you put this between the starter and the flex plate. This is a very important piece. It's much cheaper to buy this than to buy the short nose starter for 300 bucks or so. Okay, next is we have to pick up ourselves a good flywheel. Make sure you're getting the correct flywheel for your block, the 351. Make sure it's balanced. Make sure you get a quality flywheel, not a piece of junk. And you should be able to find those anywhere online. Just get a good flywheel. Spend the money on that now. This is the correct throwout bearing you're looking for. It has the two clips on the back. If you look them up under a Ranchero, you can find them online, 30 bucks or so. But you want to make sure you get the right throwout bearing to fit that fork. In a 73 Mustang, that'll fit, and the 73 Ranchero will fit. Then the next item you'll need is a good pilot bearing. I suggest the ones with the bearings in them. They seem to last a little longer than the old stock ones without the bearing. But you can get either or. They both work great. So that'll be your next is the pilot bearing. And then not least but last, get yourself a good clutch and pressure plate. McLeod or one of those, or Spec, get a good one. Don't buy a garbage one. You'll pay that price down the road for sure. Just get a really good clutch and pressure plate. Now this image is the image of the correct Z-bar you're looking for. A 1973 Mustang or a Ranchero will work just fine. Just make sure the frame mount and the transmission mounts mount up, and the push rod from the clutch pedal to the Z-bar is correct, as pictured above is what you're looking for. Okay, the next part you'll need is the boot from the shifter pedals down to the firewall for the push rod to the Z-bar, and this is the correct boot. Now, another thing you're going to need are Zerk nuts. They're collapsible nuts that will go into the frame to mount the Z-bar frame bracket to, and these you sometimes can get away with not using if you can get to the bolts from the frame. There's a few different ways you can install these Zerk nuts with a Zerk nut crusher. You can go through the fender well and get to them. And you can also, on my frame, there was a round hole where I can get up inside the frame. Some people say they can't find a hole to get to these Zerk nuts. So look at your car and see what the best way to install these Zerk nuts are. All the Torinos come with pre-drilled holes on the frame. They're really close next to the firewall, so you'll see them up on top of the frame if you reach. The two holes are pre-drilled by the factory. So they are there. You just got to reach for them. All the Torinos have them. Okay, your first step is you're going to remove your interior. You'll take your seat out. You'll take your console out. You'll remove the shifter from the automatic transmission. You'll have to take out the complete gauge clusters. Then you'll have to unbolt the bolts from the steering column. There's like 6 or 8 bolts. There's also some wiring running through the existing brake bracket. You'll have to uninstall those unplugged wires and remove those, and disconnect the boot from the floor on the steering column. Once you do that, you're ready to remove the steering column. So you have to take the steering column totally out at that point. At this point, you'll have to remove your carpet to unplug some of the wiring that goes to the console, and to get the carpet out of the way in order to remove the bolts for the column to floor boot. Once you get all the gauges out and you get everything unbolted, you'll have to remove the master cylinder brake booster bolts, push that into the engine compartment, take off the column boot at the bottom with the 3 bolt holes. To the left of it, you'll see a pre-marked spot to drill for the clutch boot, You'll drill a hole saw a little smaller than the rubber boot for the pedal rod. Once you drill that hole in there and stick in the pedal rod boot, you're ready to put your clutch pedals back into the car, the new ones. As you can see in the picture there, the new boot is to the left of where the column goes in. The pedals are now slid back up on top of the steering column, and you start to reinstall your column. At that point, you just put your rod through the floor. Make sure you have your Z-bar bracket bolted to the frame, and then you're ready at this point to put the car back together on the interior. Now, once you got your pedals in, put your breather rings back on. And at this point, you're ready to do the underside of the car with the transmission and hooking up your Z-bar. The drive shaft from the automatic transmission will fit no problem with the 4-speed transmission. If you have the long tail, you don't have to order a new drive shaft. It'll fit right up, no problem. So now that that's all done, when our car or motor comes back from the machine shop, I will put up videos on the transmission installation, Z-bar hookup, and the rest of it. So stay tuned and watch our next series where the engine and transmission go back into the car, which will be a live video, and I'll post that for you real soon. So hope this helps some of you. Drop some notes. Make sure you friend us and like and subscribe. Thank you.